Hello, this video is going to review the use of user vpound variables to place horizontal reference lines on a chart. This may be useful, for instance, for someone that creates some proprietary levels calculated external to MarketDelta, and they would like to make it as easy as possible to apply these levels to a chart every day, doing a minimal amount of busy work, let's say. So the first thing that we're going to do is set up the vpound variables that we wish to use. This first part is not absolutely necessary, it's optional, but it's nice to be able to label the vpound variables so that you don't have to remember what vpound1 or vpound2 stands for. You'll know just from glancing. So from MarketDelta, we go up to Setup, Preferences, User Variables. And for those of you that have already used user variables and perhaps have some currently applied to some charts or RTL functionality, please make sure that you don't overwrite any variables. Use some fresh ones, use a new variable that's not currently being used. And by the way, what I'm showing you here does not require RTL. You can integrate it with RTL, but it's not required for this functionality. So I'm going to use 3 user variables. For the example that I'm setting up, you'd use one user variable for each symbol in a quote page that you want to apply some proprietary levels to. So let's call, I'm sorry, that's not correct. You would not use one variable for each symbol. You'd use one variable for each level that you had. So if there's 5 different levels that you're going to apply to each chart, 5 user variables. In this case, I'm going to limit it to 3 just for the simplicity of the example. So let's call this first variable level A, and the display format, let's just round it off to integer quantities. Let's call level 2 vpound2 level B, and again we'll just round this off to an integer amount. And for vpound3 we'll call that level C. Click out of there. So the next step would be to create a quote page. And let's throw in some ticker symbols here. Just use the standard ones I'm used to for the E-mini, for the NASDAQ mini, and the YM. And I'm going to clean up this quote page by deleting all but one of the columns, just to make it easy for me to work with. Now I'm going to add columns for each of the vpounds that I created labels for. So I will right click on the current column, then click on Add Column, and scroll down to the vpound variables. And I see that I must have not applied a label correctly somewhere along the line. vpound3 is labeled, but vpound1 and vpound2 are not. So let's apply these first to the quote page, then I'll go back and check why these labels aren't being applied correctly. So we'll apply vpound1 as a column, and I don't have to close this list out every time. I can just successively click down the list that I want to apply. Apply again, and apply a third time. So let's momentarily go back up to the Setup, Preferences, User Variables, and see what's going on. What do we call this one? We called this level A. Oh, it's good that we revisited this. Notice this checkbox here, show vpound number after the title. If you don't have that checked, these labels will not show. So let's apply that label. Notice now we did get both our labels in the quote page. And finally, for vPound2, we call that level B. Set our formatting and apply. Okay, now we're good to go. Now once you have this quote page set up, you're done. Unless you need to modify it for some reason because you add or delete some proprietary levels that you're using, this can stay the same. What will change is the values that you type in. Usually you'll see a bunch of zeros. In this case, my vPound1 related to the ES had been used for some other value, for some other indicator. So I'm going to override these simply by typing in values. Let me type in 778, 780, and 782. Now the numbers that I'm typing in right now, I'm just picking out at random. The numbers you would type in would be the proprietary levels that you want to apply to a chart to display with horizontal reference lines. So for the NQ, I'll type in 1200, 1210, and 1220. And for the YM, 7310, 7350, and 7369. When I type these values in, that is applying the value that I want to the particular vPound variable column for that symbol. So let me drag this down and out of the way a little bit and open up a chart to show you what happens. So let's open up a new footprint. This is for the ES. I'll get rid of this indicator just so we can focus on what we're most interested in. So for each of our vPound variables, we'll need a line in the chart, a horizontal reference line. That's this tool right here. Click it, place it on the chart, click it again to highlight it, and I'll hit the Enter key on the keyboard to open up the preferences. There's a lot you can do with these reference lines. One of the items is this Use vPound button. And instead of using previous close, we're going to use vPound1. And we'll apply it. And notice what we get. Automatically, our line is applied to the correct level. Tomorrow morning, you go back into this quote page, type in your new proprietary levels, the line will automatically move. You don't have to do anything with the preferences in the chart. You only have to change the values in the quote page. So let's add another couple of lines here. Click on it to highlight, hit the Enter key. For the sake of contrast, I'll change the color. Again, go up to user variable. This time I will choose 2. And we may as well add the last one. So you'd have to repeat this process for each symbol or each chart that you wish to have these type of lines displayed on, but once you get the initial setup done, that's it, other than changing the numbers on a daily basis. You do not have to constantly be adding the new reference lines. You don't have to be changing the preferences for the reference lines or the setup of the VPOM variables. That's all there is to it. I hope that many of you can find this to be a useful addition to your trading arsenal. Thanks.